Jerry always says this, Coach Jerry, if you're burning out and then all of a sudden, like, you're going 100 and you lose, well, your technique is shit, right? When you're just tired, that means you have shitty technique.
Repetition. Because again, going back to what you said earlier, it's just your body goes back to what you've done 1,000 times.
You know, you are who leads the pack, right? Like they do. Yeah. It comes from the top, for sure. It's like work.
I feel like my biggest takeaway, though, in my general jiu-jitsu journey is that if you put in the hours, you can learn something, whatever it is, you know? I mean, there can't be much things that are harder than this. Learning to do this while people are trying to kill you actively and stop it, you know?
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, the only way to really get good at it is just do it, man.
Right, yeah.
You know, just put yourself in the fire. Honestly, that's like, a lot of people don't like to hear that because it's so bro-ish. But then it's like, just throw yourself into the fire.
At first.
Yeah, and just get fucked up or just feel like a fool because you don't know anything. Put that ego aside and just kind of, here I am.
Right.
I'm here to learn.
Just keep coming, you know, get comfortable, ask questions, you know. Again, closed mouths don't get fed. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Jerry So, my boy.
Yeah, he loves that shit. All right, man. So you got Worlds in where? Like a week?
Yeah,
like that?
Possibly. I still have to make weight.
Yeah. You know? And you said you were going down to, how many pounds have you lost for that? You said you're going down to 188, right?
Yeah. So I started at 220, 215, 220.
This is jiu-jitsu. This is a jiu-jitsu competition, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know what Worlds was.
Right. Yeah, so what is it? 25 pounds now so far? So did that in a couple months, which it's not bad.
And where were you at? What weight?
215, 220-ish.
Yeah.
That's where I usually hover. I feel like 215, 220.
How do you feel, man? That's a lot of weight to drop.
I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I feel lighter for sure, you know? And I feel like that definitely helps out, like, my rolls. I have a little bit more of a gas tank. I feel like I can move around a little easier. I feel like I can do things that I wasn't able to do with the belly in the way like that, like a big belly in the way.
Is that that noticeable?
I feel like it is, yeah. Because I feel like I'm pretty agile to begin with. You know, like I have some agility where I can bend and twist a little bit more than others.
Even when you were that, I guess you could say big.
Yeah.
You're already moving like a smaller guy. Like you were pretty agile, you know?
Yeah, and I feel
can only imagine now.
Yeah, being lighter definitely has helped that, you know? I'm definitely trying to work on those like fancy inversion moves or whatever, you know?
You mean like barambolas and stuff like that?
No, like just getting under people, you know? And I feel like it's easier now that I can like bend a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Without a huge belly in the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what are the advantage of being like a bigger guy, or would you say that's more of a hindrance, you know, from the weight that you were at compared to what you are now? Like, do you think, because from what I noticed with me, because I did get up to 40 pounds, you know, whatever I am now, and that's big for me because, you know, I'm a shorter guy.
Of weight,
yeah, that's a lot of weight. But I noticed I was a lot stronger, right? Because of all the fat and muscle too put together. So that's what I kind of miss. And especially when I bench press and stuff, you kind of you're like, oh, I got a little weaker. But then you could really see the strength match up. But again, yes, you are lighter on your feet. For sure, I agree with that.
Definitely. And I definitely feel like it's harder to maintain that pressure. I feel like maybe if you're a little bit lighter. But dude, I came into jiu-jitsu as like someone who's strength trained regularly, you know?
Oh, yeah?
My first class, like I was benching 335, you know, pulling some serious numbers. And I'm getting tossed around by people half my size. So I feel like I try to step away from that, you know? But for my first year, it was still just brutishness, strength, you know? But I feel like that definitely changed after a while of just constantly getting hurt, you know? Yeah. So I feel like I try to develop a game where it's like, get under, attack legs or whatever it is, you know? So losing this weight, I feel like wasn't too much of a hindrance because it's already like the kind of game I'm trying to develop or trying to get to. You know what I'm saying?
What game would that be? Can you be more descriptive?
Just get under, that, like, getting under people, you know, trying to utilize butterfly or like shin guard to get to like a single leg X or whatever, what have you, you know? A lot of those paths. Again, I'm still a blue belt, so I'm still trying to develop a game. You know what I'm saying? But that's where I feel comfortable in.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I talked a lot about that. I've had obviously, a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners in here, and everyone has their own game.
Yeah,
obviously. And some people, they put the pressure on. Some people, smaller guys like me, I move around. But then, you know what I noticed? Like, even though I'm a smaller guy, I'm probably at 145, 140 right now. 140, I would say more. I used to move around a lot, right? Like, I used to go from one side to another.
Yeah.
I'd be so agile. I still am, I would say. But then now, like, as I get on like the upper echelons of things, I'm like closing the lid. I'm tightening the lid. So I'm not moving as much as I used to, but I'm just sticking the pressure on, trying not to give too much space, if that makes any sense.
For sure.
You see what I'm saying? So that you don't give them space to like shrimp out or get out. Pretty basic stuff, but it's funny you don't learn that till like the later belts, at least for me.
Yeah, I'm still trying to learn how to keep that top pressure for sure,
Yeah.
And for the longest time, even still, I will get to mount and I'm like, all right, where should I go from here? What could I attack from here? Just feel a little more comfortable on my back, I guess. Maybe because I'm lazy too. A little lazy,
We all have it, man.
I'm a dirty guard puller, so like you come to me a little,
Yeah. Sometimes I'll do that for sure. I'll just kind of play the defense game. But then weirdly enough, my laziness actually helped my game out. What I noticed is because, okay, so you let him pass your guard, right? At the times that you don't want to play the guard, you let him pass it, and then you'll get in bad spots. But in those bad spots, it's almost like you're making excuses in your head. It's like, oh yeah, I wanted to work from here anyway.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's developed my game, as shitty as that sounds.
No, it makes sense.
As lazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
They have my back. I'm way better at back defending. That's actually, this isn't a gloat or anything, but that's actually all the compliments that I get. It's like,
your
dude,
back escapes.
Your back. The back escapes, and they just say like, dude, you're so good at defending the back. Probably because I get my back taken all the time. Right?
Yeah. I feel like my mount escapes are pretty okay, and that's from being mounted 10,000 times.
Yeah.
Try to develop that D path from there. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all go through it, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be Worlds is going to be your second competition ever.
Yes,
right?
when I make weight, rather.
When you make weight, man. I believe in you.
It's definitely nerve-wracking. I went to the ADCC one that was a month ago or whatever, just to watch, just to be there for everyone or whatever.
Okay, yeah. At T-Mobile, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. I love the energy. It was electrifying, It was pretty sweet.
Sure. Yeah. And then you got like, all your support there.
Right.
That makes it even. You got people watching you. That's a different animal.
Yeah, it feels like a family, It feels like a little
they're rooting
community.
for you. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's why they have like home courts and away courts, right?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Don't really watch sports, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Having your fans support you or whatever if you're on a team.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like a collective energy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk about like the preparation of being in competition, since it is your sex? So the first one is Naga, which is kind of like, would you say it's like entry level, right?
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much.
Small one.
Yeah, it's a small one.
It was at like a gymnasium or something.
Yeah, it's a good competition to like get your feet wet.
Yeah.
But now you're going into like Worlds, right?
Right.
Yeah, talk about like how you're feeling going into it and what kind of preparations you had to do, man.
Well, for Naga, I feel like I just came in. I just signed up, and I think I signed up for heavyweight.
And what is that, like
I think it was 200 and up. I don't really remember. I didn't really like prep. I just kind of signed up and went. And then I got there, and they bumped me up to super heavyweight because there was no one in my bracket. So I was like, all right. Definitely bigger than me, those other dudes. But I feel like I learned about how exhausting it was, I've done like 2-a-days where it's just all rounds, both classes, So like
what on Friday?
Yeah, so like 20 plus rounds or whatever, and it's exhausting. But after my first match, I've never experienced that kind of exhaustion before. I might as well have trained 3-4 times that day. It matched that level of like energy output that I did in that one match in 6 minutes or whatever it was, 4 minutes or whatever. So I feel like coming into this one, I did a little bit more different things. I you know, I'm doing jiu-jitsu and I'm doing Muay Thai too, mainly to try to get my gas tank up a little bit more, you know, doing the bike a little bit more. One of the biggest things I experienced at Naga was like muscle fatigue, specifically my forearms. Like I couldn't grip anymore, or like hardly could grip after that first match. So I've been like trying to focus on working out my forearms as much as possible, you know, before then. That was my biggest takeaways, I feel like, in that first competition.
Yeah, funny thing about that is that, I've talked to a few guys in here that compete in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And the energy thing when you're in competition, that's what I seem to notice about like one of the biggest difference is your energy output, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. Like I talked about this with Coach Danny last week, that you have to know, number one, how to pace yourself, and then the energy output that you're putting in between those like 3-minute rounds. Like say when it comes to sparring in Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And even in jiu-jitsu, those 5-minute, you know, because you're rolling with your buddies for 5 minutes, there's no skin in the game.
Yeah.
So, and also like on Fridays when we go fucking like 12 rounds, 5 minutes, sometimes 8 minutes long, you have to pace yourself. Right. Otherwise, you're just going to burn out and you're just going to sit out.
You're going to be one of those guys sitting out.
You're going to be one of those guys that are getting made fun of.
I'm one of those guys, but it's okay. Yeah. But
yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing that, honestly, now that I think about it, it's one of, or not the most important between the two disciplines, like Muay Thai, MMA, and 3 disciplines, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, that you kind of learn is the pacing.
Yeah.
Don't blow your wad. That's why technique is king, right? It's just kind of like, Jerry always says this, Coach Jerry, if you're burning out and then all of a sudden, like you're going 100 and you lose, well, your technique is shit, right? When you're just tired, that means you have shitty technique.
Because that's what you like refer to as like what's muscle memory and when you've actually repped out, when you're exhausted.
Yeah, because it's okay to lose, right? It's obviously it's okay to get tapped out. It's just some people just give up completely, right? It's the quote, exhaustion makes a cowards out of all of us.
For sure.
And it's fucking true, man.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was having a roll with Andy the other day. Big boy Andy. Yeah. Big guy. Strong, dude. Strong as hell. And I'm exhausted. I'm under this guy. He's just mounted, doing whatever he wants. And I'm just starting to give up, kind of. And I hear Kevin from the background. He's like, hey, keep moving.
Yeah.
And I look over and he's staring at me. And I was like, oh. And immediately I picked up the pace, you know. I was like it was definitely mental, you know, because I thought I was exhausted to the point where I couldn't really move, but I wasn't really, you know. I was convincing myself I was. You know, I was able to definitely get out of it, like eventually within the next minute or so. But I probably would have submitted pretty soon after that if I didn't, you know, change that mentality immediately. Where I could move, I can move, I could keep moving. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why the mind-body connection, I really believe in that. I mean, that's why I think it's so important because, like, usually you'll hear that. Okay, you know, your body's tired, but your mind, you know, can take you a long way and you don't know how much you got till, you know, you actually like put your mind to it, David Goggins did a little bit. But I actually think it works both ways. When your mind is just fucking exhausted, like you're mentally drained, but then you have a habit of pacing yourself and moving with your body, just like second nature, that's the body like taking over. You know what I mean? Just moving naturally.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like in sparring, it's again, in sparring in Muay Thai, when you block like a kick and you're exhausted as shit, that shit, you're not thinking about it. It's just coming up.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, it's just muscle memory. That's just your body doing it.
Yeah, I still don't have that in striking yet. I'm still learning the motions. You know?
Yeah, but you know what I mean though, right? Like even in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of like,
throwing a hook up or like catching a leg just naturally without really thinking of it, you know?
Yeah. Like in jits, if you're like nowadays, I don't give up, right?
Yeah.
Like technically speaking, I don't give up. I just keep moving. I'll move to the back. I'll give up positions, but I won't fold. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If I get in an armbar, I'll try to do a hitchhiker or something, but I won't fold.
Right.
But I'm exhausted. But then that's just my body moving at this point.
Yeah,
I'm like a headless chicken sometimes.
For sure. And it's interesting seeing people come in that are new and you're about to slap on a submission. You're about to slap on like a smother tap, like some of us like to do. And they tap immediately. And I'm like, I haven't really like put it on yet, you know?
Right, yeah.
But I remember that feeling of like claustrophobia, like being under and just like, get me out of here, you know?
Yeah, dude. It's the worst mental fuck I think there is. It honestly, when you don't know what to do, oh man, I'm glad you brought that up. Because when you don't know what to do, it feels like you're drowning.
For sure.
Literally. Like, there's no other words to explain it. Just think about you drowning in the ocean. Literally. It's like claustrophobic. You're scared a little bit. You're
can't
like,
really breathe.
Fuck, yeah, I'm gonna die. You feel like you're gonna die. Like in the literal terms.
Yeah. Yeah, that smother's no joke. I remember being under people when I started and like not really sure what to do. And then I inhale and like the rash guard's wet. So it just conforms into my mouth. It's so disgusting.
It gets sucked in like a plastic bag.
Yeah, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's a funny one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like I said before we were talking on these podcasts, like I like these kinds of podcasts because like, you know, we're around like the same range, you know what I mean? As far as like when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And then sometimes when you talk to like the upper belts and people that have more experience, like, you get what they're saying, but their skill sets are so far out that you think you understand, right? You have a grasp of like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like close the space or, you know, do this, but you really don't until you actually get up there and have those skills and implement them and go through the trials and tribulations. For sure.
You know, and I'm just now starting to understand the importance of repping, you know, repetition. Because again, going back to what you said earlier, it's just your body goes back to what you've done 1,000 times.
Yeah. The weird thing about like jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to compare it to like Muay Thai training too, is that funny enough is that Muay Thai, you get way more drills, right? Because in jiu-jitsu, you're mostly rolling.
Right, the class. That makes sense.
And then I hear our coach, Jerry, he's like, you know, drills are everything. And I agree, obviously. But that took me back, when he said that took me back to like, wait, in Muay Thai, that's pretty much the majority of what you're going to do. And then you'll have like maybe 3 or 5 rounds of sparring. But then compared to jiu-jitsu, right? Like you'll have like 8 rounds, 10 rounds, 12 rounds of sparring. So it's like vice versa almost. I mean, I guess it depends what, you know, like a gym you go to, but I think it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I was listening to your, speaking of which, one of your podcasts with, I think Cody, but Syndicate's all I've known. Like I didn't do martial arts before that, you know? I didn't know that there was like a big difference between gyms like that. I came to Syndicate and I obviously could tell like I'm surrounded by some dogs, you know? And I just figured that's just martial arts in general.
Yeah.
You know, that's just wherever I went. It'd be
it
that,
is.
You know?
It is. Like you have the right idea. But again, like I talked about in this podcast, like I've been to some gyms where it's good because you could compare and contrast, but it's nothing against them. I mean, some gyms are just ran different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like some gyms are family gyms. Some are just cultural gyms. Some you just go there, socialize. Some they just hand out belts for free.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
And then you have like
without the work.
where the syndicates, or the pressure, the intensity is probably a little bit higher, I imagine, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, fittingly so. Right?
Yeah.
It is an MMA gym. And not just that, obviously, I've said this multiple times, but, you know, you are who leads the pack, right? Like they do. It comes from the top, for sure. It's like work. Like whoever your boss is, that's kind of how you're going to, you know, do things, right?
Yeah, we got some pretty cool people coaching, man. Pretty incredible people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, coming from different gyms, it's a big difference, man. It's a big difference. So how has jiu-jitsu changed your life, man?
I've always had a sense of discipline, sort of, okay? Maybe not so much in diet. My diet's always been all over the place where I'll lock in sometimes during the year and sometimes I'll fall off.
I think that's all of us, dude. That's so normal.
Yeah, but I've always worked out, I feel like, in some capacity, you know, lifted weights or what have you. But I got stronger over a period of time. But learning the discipline for jiu-jitsu was something else because now you're facing hurdles that I wasn't facing before, you know, like blue belt, blues. You talked about that one time. feeling like you're not going anywhere, feeling like you're doing the same thing week after week after week, and you're not seeing any kind of result. In fact, you feel like maybe you're getting worse.
Right,
you know?
right, yeah.
So definitely sticking to it, because once I do feel like I'm over that little hump, it's the best feeling, you know, where I finally lock down a move or think that I'm doing a little bit better. It's a good feeling, you know?
Yeah, it's also subjective.
Yeah.
Right? It's also like, it's just the way you feel about yourself, right? Like if you feel stagnant, you feel stagnant. And when you're actually getting better.
Yeah.
Right? It's just one of those things where I think sometimes we're just we're harsh critics of ourselves.
I definitely am, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the most part, everyone is, if you're
rational,
even just a little bit competitive.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too, yeah. I feel like my biggest takeaway, though, in my general jiu-jitsu journey is that if you put in the hours, you can learn something, whatever it is, you know? I mean, there can't be much things that are harder than this, learning to do this while people are trying to kill you actively and stop it, you know?
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest thing is like, I can try to do something and get better at it, you know? It just opens possibilities, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest, this is kind of cliche to say, but I think it's the biggest like transition to what you can do in life.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I don't play music and stuff like you know, I'm sure there's a lot of crossovers. Like if you do yoga, you know, you'll learn a lot about life and music and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But this thing, man, it literally like saved my life because it's so, I guess you could say, transitional to the applications that you could do as far as in life, right?
Yeah.
Like one of them is what you said. It's just, if you put in the time, well, you could get good at anything.
Right.
You tend to realize that, right?
Right.
Kind of like, you know the blueprint on how to get good at something. So
definitely. And I'm trying to translate that over to Muay Thai, you know, because I'm still green. I don't really know what I'm doing. A lot of different things at once, especially when someone's trying to coach me through something, it's still information overload, you know?
Yeah.
Or it seems like it is. Might be simple. I'm just...
Yeah, but I think it's just like anything else. I mean, obviously, you're going to suck at it, but again, you know how to get there.
Yeah.
It's just sucking for a very long time.
And I get that. That's why I'm still doing it, because I'm sure I'll get out of that eventually, where it's like that point where I know absolutely nothing to you know, get some combos down, get some like natural reactions, getting blocking down or whatever, or what have you, you know?
Yeah.
Still kind of learning the terminology.
Yeah, the only way to really get good at it is just do it, man.
Right, yeah.
You know, just put yourself in the fire. Honestly, that's like, a lot of people don't like to hear that because it's so bro-ish. But then it's like, just throw yourselves into the wolves, right?
Yeah.
Like throw yourself into the fire.
At first.
Yeah, and just get fucked up or just get, you know, just feel like a fool because you don't know anything. Put that ego aside and just kind of, here I am.
Right.
I'm here to learn.
Definitely feel like I did that. My first person I drilled with was a big guy. Don't remember his name. Big dude, bald, tattoos everywhere, just large man. And then I found out after drilling that we have to spar after that. We have to roll. And I was like, huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I didn't know anything about this going in. I just thought I'd try it out, you know? And he was the most gentle with me, I feel like, you know, the bigger dude. Everyone half my size was a little rough, you know, but rightfully so, you know? But yeah, laying in a pool of my own sweat, hardly able to move. I was like, I got to learn this. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
What got you into doing Muay Thai, man? What was like the reason behind that?
I feel like you have to know both, right? And you have to like be able to cross them over in order to be effective. What am I going to do if something ever happens and I get into a scuffle with someone who knows jiu-jitsu as much as I do, but knows a little bit of Muay Thai? I'm at a huge disadvantage, you know? I don't know, just the self-defense aspect more than anything.
Yeah, I think that's the thought behind it. I've said this before, but then that's how I got into jiu-jitsu, you know? I first started in boxing, and then I took up Muay Thai, and when I was somewhat competent in it, I was like, oh man, if someone takes me to the ground, I'm fucked.
Right, yeah.
Like I wouldn't be able to know what to do. And that gave me a space of insecurity.
For sure.
I think it was like insecurity that led me to do it.
I can relate to that. I feel like I've been in a couple of little fights here and there growing up or whatever, high school, a little bit after high school. And my biggest emphasis when I got into these little fights was not to go to the ground, because I've experienced falling to the ground in a fight and not being able to get up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I mean, martial arts they're really interesting and I really wanted to do it. But I thought I should learn that first. I should learn what to do when I'm on the ground, you know? Mm-hmm. And yeah, dude, fell in love with it immediately.
Yeah.
Now I pull guard. You know, ground's where I want to be now. You know?
Yeah.
Let's get down there as quick as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, the thing about that is that, you know, I used to be like the guard pull kind of thing too.
Yeah.
But I kind of I find it kind of fun. Actually, I find it really fun, depending on who you're going with, because I think your partner, whoever you go with, does dictate whether, like, okay, say if you go in, I think it does traumatize a lot of people. Like, say if you go in Muay Thai, right? I'll give you an example. If you go in Muay Thai or boxing, and then you get matched up, unfortunately, with just some punk that has something to prove, and he just is out there psychologically, is just fucked up and traumatized, and he just wants to fuck you up.
Yeah.
Because some people do that. Some people like to fuck people up that are trying, and you know, like, when you're new, you don't really know what you're doing.
Right.
So maybe you'll overcompensate for power a little bit, but then those other guys, they'll get mad and then they'll just pour it on.
For sure, yeah.
And I think for someone that's starting and trying to learn the sport, that could be very traumatic for them, meaning that they don't want to do it again because they think that's just how it is. Like, you know, when you first start, like, say if you're sparring again for the first time and then you get matched up with one of those guys, he's like a nice guy on the outside, and then all of a sudden he just has some fucking shit to deal with, right? He's taking it out on you, and he's just an asshole. And then that makes you not want to do it anymore. You're like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy and all that stuff. But so the reason why I say that story is because I got very lucky. That's why I think I fell in love with the sport, like Muay Thai. That's why I'm so fond of it, and boxing too, like the striking arts.
Yeah. Because
I had really good training partners and I had a really good coach. He was like, yeah, don't, you know, go ham. Like, it's just technical. And don't get me wrong, I know I'm not delusional. I know the realities of like hard sparring, which I used to do all the time, honestly, back when I was in San Diego. But now it's just about, you know, having fun with it, like the Thais do. Like, they're having fun. It's light. And I think that's what striking should be, instead of having some guy, like, you know, like you said, you went with some guy and then it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I like going with new people, you know? Because I know what it's like. I remember the anxiety my first however many months I was going. I used to sit in the parking lot for a few minutes like, all right, here I go.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going inside now, you know?
Like, dude, you're so right.
Yeah.
The drive there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like, like, fuck. Yeah, the drive there, and you just get social anxiety too.
Right. That too. You don't really know anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little awkward. Yeah, so I like rolling with new people because it's like I get it, you know, and I let them do whatever they're doing, you know, and I just kind of react to it, have a nice little conversation or whatever. Just make them feel at ease, you know. I really try to make a point of that, to make them feel comfortable, you know.
That's good. Look, you know what? I want to talk about that a little bit more, because that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. It's that, you know, when you first start jiu-jitsu, and even like a year when you're into it, you'll still kind of get this anxiety.
For sure.
Like, because of the social standards, not even just like, yeah, of course, there's a possibility that you might get hurt because you don't really know what the fuck you're doing yet. And then going in there, you're like, oh, it's time to get smashed again, right? And then you just have, like, this isn't just for martial arts, but you have these small subgroups within groups. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
I feel like
that's anywhere or with anything.
That's everywhere.
Yeah.
That's work, right?
Right.
That's just any social situations.
Right.
You'll go into somewhere, and yeah, we're one big group, and we all cool each other, but everyone tends to gravitate towards like certain people. Yeah, exactly. And I find that like very interesting. And then even when you're there, and then you see the same people, and this is just in the beginning, right? Like, I feel completely, you know, everyone's like my family over there. But when I used to go before, even though I knew some people and I got close to some people, there were just other people that I didn't know, which made me feel, uncomfortable. Not towards because of them, it's just because of me.
Yeah, just
the social anxiety I had.
Right. Yeah, and I totally get that. And I remember experiencing that for the longest time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I really do get it. I can see too, like you can see in their face that they're like a fish out of water, nervous,
Yeah.
I always ask, like, you're new, huh? If they say, yeah, I'm like, come on, let's move a little,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. With like newer guys, right? The first thing, because you could completely tell that they're new. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I tell them is just breathe.
Right.
Just have fun.
Right.
That's the first, that I found that, I was just thinking about that because I have like everyone, we're all just habits of what we say and all that. I noticed that's what I end up saying to like newer people every time. They're rolling, they're a little bit fidgety.
Yeah.
I'm like, just relax. Don't try to win. Just have fun. Just move.
See, with
that's all I say.
Yeah. I didn't watch fighting before joining Syndicate. Like it's so bizarre the way I came into it too. I didn't really have, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just felt like I had to try it. Yeah, I had to do it. I wanted to learn how to fight, I guess,
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what mount was. I didn't know what side control was, let alone north, south, or, single leg X or whatever. So I would explain to people like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And so when someone's new and they say that to me, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I always say the same thing. I'm like, do you know what mount is?
Right.
And most of them will say yes. Some of them, there's been a couple that have said no. That was me,
Yep.
And I'm like, this is mount. Try to get there. And then they're like, oh, I don't know any submissions. I'm like, that's fine. Even if you did,
Yeah.
we're not going to worry about that for a little while. So let's try to get to a dominant position, like mounts or side control,
Yeah.
Just try to get there. And then I get like really funny questions after a round, like, how do I pass a guard? And I'm like, brother, when you find that out, let me know. Okay.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, and again, I'm glad you brought that up because when someone tells me to do that, I think just from my perspective, obviously I'm just me, but I do have an answer for that a little bit, just from my experience.
Yeah.
Like say that example, right? Say if they're like, how do you pass guard? Here's the basic rules. Just like punching, there's ways that you have to punch before you could get creative with it, right? Like you kind of have to move your hip. Not kind of, you have to move your hip and then the body weight transfers to your other side and then you hit. Everyone has to go through those basic principles. There's no other way.
Yeah, so in essence, like get past the legs, get past the knees, knee shield.
So that's what I mean.
Isolate an arm or whatever.
Yeah. So say if someone says, oh, how do you pass guard? I was like, okay, here's the rules of like passing guard.
Yeah.
You have to pass my legs and then you have to get to my sides to where, and if I scrunch up like this, like kind of like if I'm shielding, then you have to open me up. Like, because I think the basics are telling them the basics, even just saying you have to pass the legs and get to my sides, right? Even just that, there's a certain level of like, oh, okay.
I guess I could say that because my mind, where I go, it's like there are 1,000 ways to crack an egg. Like there's just so many ways you could pass guard. It's just such a broad question,
Yeah, no, exactly. So where I was getting at with that was these guys, they're obviously, they've talked to the coach. They've talked to all these different people, right? Because they're newer, they don't know anyone.
Right.
And then they're probably asking the same thing. It's like, hey, what advice do you have? I know they're just like me when I first started getting overloaded with just information and advice, right?
For sure, yeah.
But if you can tell them, okay, I want you to focus on this, okay? Nothing else.
Just simple little...
Pass the legs, and this is like one or two things how you could do it. These are the most basic baseball slide.
Yeah.
Everyone fucking does it from the highest level. Like, I think if you were to pass guard, that's one of the moves that you're required to like teach someone in the beginning. Yeah. Now, again, I'm not a coach. Like, it's just subjective to what I would tell someone after doing it for, 5-6 years. From what I learned, if I were to teach a beginner, right? Baseball slide is so universal. For people from white belt to like 3 stripes, black belt, they do it till this day.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way to go about it. So I think it's solid, basic, good advice. And then you could teach them from there. Because if you go and teach them, you got to pass the legs, but then you got to trick them into doing this, and then you got to go back there.
And that's
it's like
information overload. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it probably discourages them too. I'm like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are definitely some basic ones like Vlad and Toriando, and then doing those things at a higher level, like you said.
But then see, you don't want to get there yet.
Yeah.
There is that. But then again, there's punches and kicks you could do at a higher level of Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like how do you trick someone into baiting someone into getting kicked in the face? That's a whole nother thing. Now you're just not kicking, you're feinting, you're backing up and right.
See, that's something I'm trying to learn still in jiu-jitsu is the feinting aspect of it, the baiting, the switching the left to the right. So
well, we talked about this, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really why I wanted you to go on the podcast, because I think it'd be good information for people to know that.
Yeah.
Me and Coach Jerry talked about it a little bit about like the feints and chaining and all that stuff. I'm really, really glad that you're doing Muay Thai because a lot of it relates. And I've heard Coach Jerry, when we'd finish a class and he'd be like, when you're like hitting pads and, doing that, I'm pretty sure for a lot of people that, you got to feint and he'll like say that stuff. I'm pretty sure for a lot of people that don't strike, like they don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Right.
He's like, what, feint? I don't know what that means, right? But then same rules apply. They're different sports, right? But same rules apply. You have to trick. Feinting is you have to pretty much bait and trick your opponent into thinking you're doing something, but doing another thing.
And that's something that's clicked as of recently, And the biggest thing now that I feel like I'm trying to focus on is like learning the two-sided thing for that said technique. Like say Toriando, it's super, super basic. Passing to the left. You get really good at that. Passing to the left. That's where you always go, pass to the left. And your right's not developed at all, You always have that one path, but if you develop the right, you can now feint the left to go right. You know?
Exactly.
So, but you'd have to be good at both to begin with. So like, that's something that I'm trying to work on as of recently is like getting good on both sides with one thing. You know?
It's funny, like, because same here, man. I've never intentionally did that. You know what I mean? Like I've never, just like you, that's good that you're thinking about that because I've never intentionally thought about that. Meaning, I got to get good at both sides. I guess there was a thought of it. Yeah, for sure. Right. But then you just kind of play your game and then you're like,
you just refer back to your A game.
But then you learn these moves, quote unquote, what we were talking about, chaining your moves together. Those chaining of the moves will take you from one side to another. Right? Say if you're going to do a baseball slide, you lift someone's knee up and then smash past the other side. Well, you're going to the other side. And if that doesn't work, if they're defending that, you kick the leg back and then do an X pass. Like it's so, and it's just one of those things where, again, going back to someone that's just been doing it for a few months or just started, they're not going to know that, dude. They're going to feel retarded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's like complicated on its own,
Yeah, exactly. That's why there's so much. Again, that's just like from my opinion. I'm not like coach or anything, but it's just you could tell them the basics. Like that's what I'll tell them. And then if I have someone in like say I have their back, right, and then they are struggling, right? They are struggling. They're like fucking pinching you with their nails and stuff. I'll be like, just breathe, just
relax.
Breathe. Yeah, just relax. Stay relaxed. You're having fun. Like you're already here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're just learning to fight the position. I won't tell them like, hey man, I mean, sometimes I will. I won't tell them anything specific. I won't be like, hey man, grab this arm and then put it over the head. And then because you got to figure that they're getting so much advice that they're just going to forget about it.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just be like, just breathe. It's okay.
I remember the first time someone said that to me because I was bottom out as I usually am,
Yeah.
And I want to say it was Justin. Justin had been there for a little longer than I have. And, lawyer Justin.
Yeah.
Shout out Justin, attorney at law. But I was flailing. I was like probably hyperventilating,
Yeah.
And he was like, shh. He's like, relax.
Yeah.
He's like, breathe. Think about what you got to do and move.
Yeah.
And I relaxed. And in that moment, I was like safe in a man's arms, And I felt so warm, And it was so nice,
Just sleeping.
Yeah. And, progress from there, and I never forgot that. Just like relax and try to move,
Yeah, but and listen too. Like, I understand. I'm not shitting on new people. We were all once that. It's just I see how they feel, because I think when they go into a martial arts gyms, just like you and me, I wanted to learn martial arts to defend myself, right? I want to learn how to fight pretty much. And I thought it was just cool, right? I wanted to be that cool guy. But you have a certain notion of thinking about what to expect. You know what I mean? You think martial arts, you think UFC. You think UFC, you think primitive, fucking just beating down. You think boxing, you're thinking knockouts. Yeah. You have a certain expectation that you think is what it is. And then you go in there, and obviously with the lack of skills that you have, with the no skills you have, you try to implement that by grabbing someone really hard, right? Like, and then burning your own self out.
Useless grips.
And then you think you're doing something because you're strong. That's why that's the reason behind the reason why I don't like, like why I don't judge people that start.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
I mean, everyone starts from somewhere again, but I get why they do it, is what I'm really trying to say.
Yeah.
Like how we all started off. I had this notion about boxing, right? I'm like, oh yeah. But then again, that Mike Tyson quote, it's like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Right, yeah.
Punched in the mouth. And then you get a reality check, and then all that primitive shit, all that crazy shit with no skills that you've been doing, it goes out the window. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not how you do it. Okay, cool. And then you could kind of accept it and then lean into it. You're like, all right, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
I'll get beat, but I'll learn.
Yeah, there's a lot of different aspects for new people, for our perspective, I mean, because there's those guys that are like nervous, and then there was those brutes that come in, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Those guys are interesting because, again, one of the most dangerous belts is the white belt, you know, a spazzy, strong white belt, you know? You'll definitely...
Oh, absolutely, man.
Definitely get hurt.
Especially if they got some... I mean, they should somewhat know this, but then... Especially if they got some like wrestling in them. Oh, yeah. But then they're a little bit, like we talked about, psychologically fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like their fucking dads beat them or something.
I'd like to roll with those spazzy, those new, strong, explosive white belts, you know?
It's easy to sweep them.
It is easy to sweep them, but I still kind of want to like, I don't know. I feel like a cowboy, you know, just kind of breaking this new Bronco, you know, this new stallion, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And there's some fucking strong, skilled white belts out there, meaning like they've wrestled and then they're athletic and they're genetically just fucking freaks.
Right.
And they give you a run for your money, which makes you feel like shit because you've been doing it for like 5-6 years.
Yeah.
You've been doing it 5-6 years. You're like, who am I? You start questioning like your reality.
Right.
And then that's how I feel sometimes. But then, you know, I've learned obviously to kind of, even I still have that till this day, you know, because I don't know. It's just a natural human innate feature in us to be like, oh, this motherfucker, right?
For sure.
But then that's what training is for. You'll kind of take a step back and be like, listen, man, you're here to learn. And you're not the same. Meaning, again, they're genetically, right?
Right.
And even plus then, I'll take another step back and say, listen, man, comparison's the thief of joy. You know what I mean? If you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're in a different world. You're competing for someone else or something else, or you're doing this for something else. Yeah. You're in a different age bracket. Like there's all these circumstances that you're currently in that doesn't match up. It's not just skills. It's just what your goals are, what your objective is that day, if you're feeling good that day. There's a lot that plays into it. Yeah. But then now, and it took me a really long time to learn this, sadly so, but honestly, I used to be so ego-driven. I admit it. Like, you know, when I'd go in there and then I'd get one up on someone, right? Like I'd submit them. And this was a long time ago. I don't do this now. But then I'd be like, oh yeah, I did get good. You know what I mean? I wouldn't tell anyone, but then I'd go home and be like, yeah, I got pretty good.
Got a submission today.
Yeah, I got a submission and be like, well, he kind of sucked. So, you know what I mean? And,
pretty sure he's a blue belt. You know, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then talking about that makes me feel like shit, but it's all part of the learning curve.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when I go in there, I literally just, it's in the back of my mind now. It's natural that I'm like, you're here to learn. If you get fucked up, you're here to learn. If you fuck someone up, you're here to learn. Right. If you're just flowing, you're here to learn. That's all it is. Even in Muay Thai, bro. I think if that's one thing I could, since you did just start and then you're learning this stuff, I know this is cliche to say, even like in martial arts, jiu-jitsu, it's like put your ego aside. Put your ego aside, man. Just keep telling yourself like you're here to learn. Even if you get hit in the face or something like that, you're here to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it is. Because I know the ego thing is just naturally in us. Even Coach Jerry said that. It's just how you can compartmentalize things, right? It's just your ego's gonna be there. It's just, can you check it when the time's right?
Yeah, and I feel like it's the ego that's like that makes me want to do my A game. That makes me want to do what I know, like what I have repped out before. Because you know that path, and how to get to these places or whatever. But try new things, like you're gonna mess up.
Yeah.
And I try to like implement that where it's like I need to work on this side or I need to work on this. I shouldn't try to rely on the A game, but the A game's fun.
The A game's so fun. The A game's so fun.
Yeah.
You're definitely right. It's just that's why Jerry knows to say that, right?
Yeah.
It's because he knows it's fun. He's not just saying it because it's like, well, you're doing your A game to beat someone up. No, he knows it's fun.
Yeah.
That's why you have to get away from your comfort zone, from what you think is fun, and try something out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but fuck, it's so fun. You're so fucking right, dude.
Yeah.
Like when I put it on, the move I used to love to do, just like how Nick loves to do the Dars. Shout out, Nick.
Nicky Dars.
Nicky Dars. Is when I was in blue belt, like this started changing like mid blue belt. I was an armbar. Fuck it. Like I was an arm. I love arm bars. Like just the traditional Ronda Rousey. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I
love that move. And that's why I wanted to do arm bars, was because of her. I saw her doing it and I was like, that looks so fucking cool, dude. And, I think it just got repetitive over time. Like there's different ways to hit it. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But it's just, crank it, lift the hip up and stuff like that. I used to love it and I still do. It's still kind of like one of my go-tos. But oh man, I love taking the back, dude. There's some moves that Jerry taught. This is probably the obvious statement that changed my game tenfold.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Not even just submissions, just things to do. Like for people that are on camera, like that are listening to audio, I'm just going to demonstrate this. So you should probably watch YouTube or Spotify and get on that video. But like, let's say I'm in your back and then I put the spine, pinky to the spine. That's what he calls it. And then he puts it right here. It's so fucking uncomfortable and it makes people fold. I never used to like to do it because I didn't want to be an asshole.
Right.
But other people were doing it to me. It's other people,
sports.
it's part, right? He says anything under the nose is part of the neck.
Right.
And the thing is that you could only get so far going with high levels, just playing niceties, right? Trying to slip the fucking thing under and you're trying to be nice about it. Yeah, you can't be doing that shit to Corey. Like you ain't gonna get nowhere.
Right.
Like he's just gonna be like, what the hell is this? You have to make people feel uncomfortable. And that's the thing I've talked about in this podcast about. Like, I think that's why people have like a misconception of the gentle art. It's like, come on, dude. Some gyms will teach you that.
Yeah.
And then we'll joke about it. I know it's a joke, right? It's kind of like and we know it's fucking primitive, but really it is. It's harsh. It's harsh sometimes, man.
For sure.
Just covering people's mouths. That, you know what I mean? That's a thing. I don't do it. Even till this day.
Like the smothering?
Yeah, the smothering.
The Bill Cosby?
Yeah. I don't do it. I know Kevin does. Shout out Kevin. And eventually I'm probably going to, I'm just not used to doing it. But
I do it every time I can. Every time I can.
Right. And what I mean,
it gets a reaction. You get a reaction out of them. They'll try to move. They'll try to pull something out.
Yes.
Expose an arm or what have you.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I don't do it because it's an asshole thing to do. It's just I don't do it because I'm just not used to doing it.
Dude, Shane was doing it. He did it on a guy at one of his matches in ADCC. Shane Shapiro.
Yeah.
And that dude was so mad. Okay. He was so mad at Shane for smothering him like that.
Yeah.
I got a photo of when they raised up Shane's hand and he's just mocking him with his hand over his face like this. So funny, dude.
That's so
such
crazy.
A great photo, man.
God. When stuff like that's so funny, man.
Yeah.
When stuff like that happens, man, people don't know how to take losses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I understand it's like emotional, but damn, they have a hard time letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's the battle where it's kind of like, in your head, that's not how you do jiu-jitsu, right? And the other guy said, yeah, but
could you imagine what he thought?
Everyone's different, motherfucker. Yeah. I don't know what school you go to.
Dishonorable or what probably he was thinking,
exactly.
you know?
Like whatever justification you're trying to put on that, like, welcome to the fucking real world.
Yeah, brother, come on.
Yeah. And just
it's legal.
Yeah, and just like what me and Derry were talking about on this podcast was it has to be practical.
Right, yeah.
That's why I do jiu-jitsu for sure. It has to be practical. Like if it doesn't work in the street, like, I mean, it has to work in the street for me to want to do it at the gym. And this isn't, people aren't wrong for doing this. Like, you know, when people do barambolas, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a good sport jiu-jitsu move.
Fancy stuff.
It's fancy stuff. It's cool. It's effective. Yeah. It's circumstances. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just wired this way, bro. If you pull that on me, like on the streets, I'll drop a knee.
Yeah.
I'll drop a knee on your face. You know what I mean? And I know it's easier said than done. And I'm talking like some tough guy talk.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's probably some crazy high-level black belt that'll barambola you into Tuesday. You know what I'm saying?
Fucking sure. I'm definitely 100%.
But I see what you're saying, practicality, and that's definitely something I'm trying to develop going into Muay Thai, learning more striking is like what's practical in jiu-jitsu to combine them together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Going back to, I think, man, I have real admiration for you for taking up Muay Thai. Because believe it or not, I see it in both classes. I've talked about this even on the last podcast, right? With Danny, Coach Danny. And a lot of people that take Muay Thai, they're always saying that they're going to take Jiu-Jitsu. And then a lot of people from Jiu-Jitsu are going to say that they took Muay Thai. Even though they've done it before in the past, they have a hard time getting back into it. Because I think one of the reasons is they've gotten so good at their craft or whatever they're doing, like jiu-jitsu. If you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner, you've gotten so good at it that it's hard to want to like kind of step back, start over and relearn that. And then again, you're kind of like ego takes a big hit. You know, you'll make excuses like, oh yeah, I'm just tired. It was too early. But they want to do it, right? It's kind of like everyone kind of goes through the same thought pattern, meaning, oh, what if I get into this thing and I don't know how to strike and the other guy does, but we both know jiu-jitsu, I'd be at a disadvantage. Like, I think every fucking person goes through that.
Yeah.
So that's where the thought comes in where it's like, yeah, I got to learn Muay Thai. And then that day comes where they got to start over. They know it's a long road ahead and they got to they got to take some leg kicks and get hit in the face. Right. It's like, oh, okay, I'm getting good at this jiu-jitsu thing.
I think I'll just stick with that.
Yeah, I'll just stick with that.
For sure.
But that's what I mean. Like, I have so much like admiration for that you're even in there and trying. That's why I commented on your story. Like, I was like, and that was real. I wasn't trying to like motivate you. I was like, what? That form looks good. I don't even get
I'm so self-critical though, like when I posted that jump rip stuff.
It's good.
After I saw it twice, I was like, I'm gonna delete this. This is horrible. And then I saw what you said and I was like, okay, maybe it's not so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like learning that rhythm, learning the foot movement, and balance,
again, Yeah, even when you do Muay Thai, again, what I tell like, someone that just comes off from white belt, right? Just have fun, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because you'll see a lot of this, a lot of stiffness, right? Like stiff as a board.
Yeah.
That's like someone spazzing out in jiu-jitsu. That's like, oh, Jesus, like you're going to burn out with your shoulders up like that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the Muay Thai boxing version of spazzing out in jiu-jitsu, just being stiff as a board, like having your hands up, being tense, like that. Just have fun. Like it's like dancing a little bit.
Seeing both classes, there's definitely like a few of like us that train both. You know, you'll see them both. Like Zeke's one of them.
I love
you obviously, but we'll do both classes all the time. Julian's another big one.
He just started doing it too.
Really?
Not too long ago. Like he's one of the people that I have an admiration for because just like, and I understand he was consistent, sometimes he'd be late and stuff like that. But now he really drove it up. You know why? Because he got past the plateau.
Oh,
he was like, oh, this shit's fun.
Yeah.
And then when you start having fun with it, you get past that. You're like, oh, I'm getting pretty good at this. That's when it starts getting addicting, right? Like sometimes people tend to forget that. Like in jiu-jitsu, it's like when people say jiu-jitsu got addicting. I'm sure it wasn't addicting when you were getting smashed fucking 5 months in.
No.
Right.
God, no.
Even the blue belt plateau.
Yeah.
I'm sure that wasn't addicting when you were fucking plateauing at your best.
Listen, I get it when people quit. Feeling that plateau that first time, like, I get it, you know? Just getting smashed, doing what you know, and like it's not working no matter what you do, you know?
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
Yeah, mostly with those two classes, like those who do jiu-jitsu tend to stay in jiu-jitsu, and those who do Muay Thai tend to stay in Muay Thai. It's hardly ever that I see the two of them cross over, you know? But I think more people should do it. You know?
I think personally for me, and I know I've talked to the guys that do both, you know, Zeke and, you know, all that, Willie and all them. I just feel kind of incomplete when I don't do both because it's part of the habits now.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
It's kind of like if I just do jiu-jitsu, I'm just kind of like, oh, I feel like I missed out on something. Or if I just do Muay Thai, when I do Muay Thai, I'm like, I don't think I got the workout that I needed, or I learned what I needed. Muscle, what I need. And then you got that FOMO. Like, oh man, fuck,
what are they learning over there?
Yeah. And then, you know, you're kind of thinking to yourself, like, everyone's getting better but me.
Right.
You're like, oh, fuck, people are learning but me.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those good habits though, right? Like that work out for you in like a positive way. That it's an addiction, but positively. And like, oh fuck. If that's the worst thing I got to think about, like, man, I didn't make it to Muay Thai class today, but I'd gone every other day, then I think I'm in a pretty good spot. Right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, you should just keep coming, you know, you'll see like the progress. And I guarantee you, that's a good point about Julian, because I saw him today actually. And then I saw him at that bag class on Saturday. And I'm like, this motherfucker. Like, he used to be late all the time. He used to be so inconsistent. You know what I mean? And now he just turned it up. And I already know without talking about him, it's that switch that turned on. Because sometimes when I look at him like do like a shadow knee, I'm like, oh, he's getting like the form down. I'm starting to see it.
I see his form now, and I'm like, I want to ask him to help me out now. You know?
Yeah. But again, it's just repetition, right? It's just going from class to class.
Just doing it, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been a fun podcast, man. So as a hobbyist, what advice would you have for someone like starting off, or probably 5 to 6 months in their hobbyist journey? We'll keep it like hobbyist.
Yeah. I think those are probably maybe a little bit two different answers. I think for someone starting to begin with, just keep coming, you know, get comfortable, ask questions, you know. Again, closed mouths don't get fed. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Jerry So, my boy.
Yeah, he loves that shit.
Yeah.
He loves that quote, I mean.
Yeah, he says it all the time.
Yeah.
Doesn't shut up about it.
Yeah, it's like, Jerry, just calm down. You said it like 4 times on this podcast.
No one even asked you, bro.
Yeah, I'm about to stop recording. Shout out, Jerry. We love you, man. We love you.
No, he's a great guy.
Yeah. Kind of, sometimes.
Usually.
Yeah.
I don't know about that guy.
He's a creep, actually. I'm sorry.
Pretty sure. Anyways, just keep coming. My biggest thing was like conditioning, I guess, you know, and it was bizarre because like I worked out constantly, and it was a whole different type of conditioning for me, you know. So learn what works for you as far as like your physical aptitude, and then 5-6 months in, you're coming, you know. It's a habit now. You're still here. I love seeing dudes who have been there for like 4 months, and I'm like, you're still here, man. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
Seriously.
You're probably still getting smashed, but it's going to get fun soon. It's going to get fun soon. You're going to be able to like do some stuff that are pretty fancy, you know? So to kind of add on to that, I would say that what I just said was, you don't know when you keep coming, you don't know when it's going to change for you. Like say 5 months in, right? You're getting smashed and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you're not. And then, you know, with their blue belt blues that everyone goes through, when you're plateauing till you're not. So when you keep coming, there's just one day, and I can't explain it. And this is what I relate to. Like, do you know what the power of compounding interest is? Compounding effect. Yeah, I mean, it's self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's just exponential growth.
Yeah, over small percentages or whatever.
Exactly. They call it the 8th wonder of the world, because it's not like, on this day, then I'm going to get good. It's just one day you're going to wake up And all those skills, for some reason, they quote unquote compound. And then you're just a different fucking person just one day. Like a light switches in one day. And then you go to the gym, you're murking everyone. You know what I mean? You're moving different when you just had that thought of quitting because you had the quote unquote blue belt blues.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just one day you get past the hurdle. Like I can't tell you when, I can't tell you what happens.
Right.
I just know that if you keep showing up, I promise you, you'll eventually pass it and you'll be glad that you kept going with it because that's what happens with everyone. It's just that exponential growth. It's not like a linear kind of like, yeah, I'm getting better. It's kind of like I suck. Oh shit.
Dude, it's definitely not linear, man. It's a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what it feels
exactly.
like a lot.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
That's exactly what it is. That's the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 steps forward, one step back. But thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
It's
a lot of fun.
For sure.
Hell yeah.
Let's
Appreciate
go.
you.
Appreciate you.